Thank you for joining us. This is Business Incorporated. I'm Chimeze Obi Iwago. On the program today, decline in South Africa's private sector eases, fanning recovery hopes. Ex-Credit Suisse bankers arrested on U.S. charges over Mozambique loans. Plus, Liberians speak out over crackdown on illegal electricity connections. We'll get the show started now with the markets, and the Nigerian stock market continued its downward trend at intraday today, trading low by 0.53%. South Africa JSE index, on the other hand, was up 0.65%. The Egyptian market is closed, but the index rose 0.46% on Thursday, gaining for a third straight session, aided by its bank shares. Kenya closed in the red on Thursday. And markets in the Middle East started the weekend on Thursday and so are closed today. However, on Thursday, major Gulf markets staged a recovery after opening on a weak note on global market woes, with renewed interest in financial stocks helping overcome volatility in global markets. The Qatari index rose 0.68%, with 18 of its 20 stocks advancing. Saudi Arabia's index was up 0.51%, with RIG Bank gaining 0.8%, and Saudi Basic Industry up 1%. The Abu Dhabi index was up 0.65%, with First Abu Dhabi Bank gaining 0.7% and Dana Gas adding 3.3%. The Dubai index, one of the world's worst performing stock markets last year, inched up 0.22% in late buying. And in Europe, shares opened higher on Friday following news that the U.S. and China will hold trade talks next week. There are also news on the wire driving markets today. Paul Christian Breeze, my colleague at the Frankfurt Stock Exchange, has the details. Good afternoon, Paul.
Good afternoon.
So 3 former bankers with Credit Suisse has been arrested by international prosecutors over their alleged roles in Mozambique's $2 billion debt fraud scheme. What are the implications of this case for Credit Suisse and the country?
Yes, so these 3 bankers in the years between 2013 and 2016 managed to borrow from international investors $2 billion that were backed by the Mozambique government. Now, U.S. prosecutors are charging them, saying that they actually tricked international investors by creating a bunch of companies, maritime projects, for example, a state tuna fishery, to make this all look proper, but then redirected some of those funds into their own pockets, into bribes and in other directions, basically for their personal enrichment. Now, what consequences or what implications does this have? Credit Suisse as a bank has so far not been charged, even though attorneys say that the employees likely did this also to benefit the bank. However, the bank says the 3 charged were using personal private emails in order to get around internal security mechanisms that are designed to prevent these things from happening. For Mozambique, some of the negative outcomes already came in 2016 when it turned out that these projects were fishy. The International Monetary Fund cut off its support for the country, causing a severe slowdown, an economic slowdown. And now analysts are saying that there might be more political turmoil coming to the country in the wake of these charges, because it's not just the 3 bankers or ex-bankers that are charged. Also, Manuel Chang, the former finance minister who was in charge back when these loans were given out, backed by the Mozambique government, who has been arrested. So this might spell further trouble for the country.
And U.S. and Chinese top officials are meeting in Beijing next Monday for talks to ease trade tensions between the 2 countries. How much of the Apple's market mayhem will be at play, and will that ease tensions for investors in Europe?
Well, the Apple case certainly has taken away leverage from Donald Trump in this trade conflict, because he's always been arguing, that trade wars are easy to win, no problem, and basically saying it's not going to hurt the U.S. economy. Meanwhile, propping it up with subsidies and tax cuts. But now it is, one of the most important and biggest brands in the U.S. is collateral to this fight between the U.S. and China. And the recent data that we get from China shows a similar picture. Both China and the U.S. are suffering from the current situation, much more than we might have expected, or much more than they might have expected, actually. So there is an incentive to get closer together. Is there going to be a breakthrough this meeting on Monday? It's not very likely, analysts say, because it's not a top-level meeting. It will be vice ministerial levels. But at least it is the first face-to-face meeting since the 90-day truce was called out. And they're going to talk first and foremost about steel, about agriculture, and about cars. And today, here in Germany in the blue chip DAX, these are exactly the shares that are profiting. We're seeing steelmaker ThyssenKrupp gain. Bayer, think crop science, and car makers are also gaining on these news.
And staying in the U.S., Nancy Pelosi's House of Reps hits the ground running on Thursday night by passing 2 legislation to keep Washington running while President Trump gets no deal over his $5 billion border wall. Will this political maneuvering calm some frayed nerves today on Wall Street?
Ist der Rest noch da? Ist die Verbindung noch da überhaupt?
Also Bild geht noch raus.
Well, Paul, I'm wondering if you heard what I said. We're still talking about the U.S. economy and the House of Reps hitting the ground running on Thursday night, passing 2 legislation to keep Washington running, while President Trump gets no deal over his $5 billion border. I was asking, will this political maneuvering calm some frayed nerves today on Wall Street?